guys, Kil2 here with another commentary. I want to really quickly thank everybody for all the subs and the feedback. It's been a really nice week hearing from you guys, so thanks for that. And I hope it continues because I've got something unusual here and I really want to know what you guys think. I've been trying to get more content for you really aggressively, and it's kind of been a really lopsided week where I'm either winning really hard or losing really hard, so there's not a lot to talk about. But I think this might be interesting even though it's a bit unusual, so let me know how you feel. What I've got is an engagement that takes place over multiple jumps, and that's kind of something you don't usually see, I guess. But me and Kovorix are actually roaming together, and he's in a Megathron and I'm in a Hamdrake, which I've seemed to be in a lot in these commentaries, even though I actually don't fly it all that much. So when the first video starts, I'm going to be in a belt in Tasty after we've seen some action on scanners. So there's some people that have been moving around in system, and by moving around I mean, you know, they're showing up on scan and then disappearing from scan, etc. So we know they're around, and so I just went in a belt to hang out, and Kovorix is in system on a different gate in his Megathron. So I'll pick up there, and I'm going to start the video now. And so the first thing that happens is this Pirate Ares shows up in the belt, and oh, I didn't have the video muted. So he tackles me, which is fine. And you know, I showed you how to slingshot in that other video, but this is a pretty difficult example because the long-range interceptors have extra range on the scram. It's hard to get close enough. So the only thing I can really do is get my warriors on him, which will eventually make him leave. The damage they do is light, but it does add up, and he's never going to do any damage to me. But then the rest of their gang starts piling in, and it turns out to be, I believe, 3 Drakes and a Scimitar. So the first Drake is here now. I'm telling Kovorix to get into the belt, and at first I'm really encouraged because this Drake picks up speed and heads right for me, and so I think, okay, we're gonna get, you know, we're gonna get to actually sort of get a brawl here, which is fine. I mean, we're a little outnumbered. Doesn't look so bad now with just the 2 Drakes, but once the 3rd Drake and the Scimitar show up, it's not great. Now you can see Kovorix is on grid. And so we're both just kind of scrambling, and then right about now we notice that these are nano drakes. And in case you're not familiar, it's pretty common. You know, you'll see it in the Podla videos, and you'll see it a lot in EVE in general right now. But basically, they're gonna try and maintain tackle on us, but stay far enough away that they never have to take damage from the Megathron. And they might not have known it, but the same thing goes for my Drake since it's a Ham Drake. Now the tricky part for them, and their fault kind of throughout the whole series of engagements, is that they do not do a good job keeping tackle. You can see right now the Ares split off, and I think it's likely he went to get tackle on Kovorix because Kovorix is a more expensive target. It's also possible he went running back towards the Scimitar to get reps because he was getting low. And my first mistake in this fight actually was right here. I had a chance to tackle the Ares. He was very close to me, and I just barely missed it, and that's disappointing. But yeah, he's kind of acting strangely, and so what I'm trying to do, since this is obviously too much damage for me, and it's pretty unlikely we're going to get any kind of tackle, is I'm just burning towards something, and I'm trying to get myself. Burning is good. I'm gonna wind up separating. They're gonna have to pick. I think Kovorix is burning towards the Scimitar, and so I could separate something from the Scimitar, like the Ares right here, where he's gonna take damage and not be able to get reps. I could separate a Drake from the Scimitar and actually get to fight it. I could separate everything from Kovorix so that he can actually warp out. This is just a situation where it's to our advantage to be splitting up by a lot. It forces them to have to sort of pick a target, and then it works out great because for whatever reason the Ares spins out of tackle range, and so right here he gets too far away and I'm able to warp out. And so right here I'm going to pause it again because what happens is I warp to this gate, and then we move the fight one system up. So the next jump in our route is Otisella, and I'll show you that on a map right now. And Kovorix is actually able to get out of the belt too somehow, and really that's a problem for the Drakes. They should be way closer. There's no reason for them to be missing tackles, but anyway, he's able to get out, and so I'll go ahead and start the next one now. And so here picks up after we've jumped, or I've jumped anyway. He's on the other side of this gate. I've jumped into Otisella, and their gang jumps in, and what we want is to fight them on this gate. Really what we're trying to do is move the engagement to a place where we have just a little bit more going for us. And we have 2 things going for us by moving to this gate. One, they start out close to us, so we have a better chance of getting a tackle. Like right here, you know, if a Drake comes out close to Kovorix after he jumps in, or if something comes out close to me, there's a chance I can get something. We also have the chance to split them with aggression. If some of them aggro and we jump back and they come to the other side, we might be able to lose one or two of their ships for a second. And finally, we have gate guns. So we have a lot going for us on this gate. The problem is they realize that and they don't take the fight. So they all warp off to random things, and actually I was tempted to warp to that belt where the scimitar went and see if I could snag him. But we really wanted the gate fight. That was really where we felt like we had the best opportunity, and they didn't want it. And so partly in our minds right now we were like, giving up on them. It seemed pretty, I don't know, pretty much a long shot that we were going to get a fight, because they were only going to take it in a belt where we're at a huge disadvantage. We're only going to take it on a gate where they're at a huge disadvantage. Which sort of seems like, nothing's going to happen. And so I'm pausing now again real quick before we go to the next fight. So what's happening here is we're moving up now, kind of giving up on them. We move up another couple jumps into 0-0 into EOA. And they actually followed us. They were really intent on getting this fight. And so we were just kind of going to the entry to get another fight. But they follow us up to 0-0, happy to engage maybe on a gate in 0-0 where there's no gate guns, but we still have the gate of security. And so the next fight picks up in EOA on the outgate to the next system, which is UBX, where they've all warped to 0. Here we'll take it, no problem. We get a tackle on the scimitar. They're all sitting at 0, and they know they can't take that. So then they pile into the next system. And so you can see kind of how we're trying to get this fight to happen in a place where we're not at such a big disadvantage. And we're actually, it's really fluid. I mean, it's changing constantly. It's like whose favor the fight is in is constantly rotating. I think that's really interesting. So anyway, we have aggression here. We wait on this gate, and we're going to jump into them on the other side, to see. We're kind of moving up our route, giving them the option. But the nice thing here is that as long as we're on a gate rather than in a belt, we always have the option to reapproach. The big vulnerability, in my opinion, of the nano fleets, the Drakes and Hurricanes, is that unless they're very good and aggressive, typically they won't be good at webbing you away from gates, and so you can always reapproach and jump back to the last system. And or if they're not good at splitting, like if they put Drakes on either side of the gate, that would be a problem. But then they force, they give us the opportunity to isolate a Drake. So as long as you're near gates, you're in a lot better shape than when you're at a belt or any other celestial against these kind of fleets. So we jump in here, and they've burned way off the gate. And again, in my opinion, this is too careful of them. Like, they've gotten to where they're 40k away from the gate. They can DPS us, but they're not gonna be able to web us away from the gate. So it's easy for us to reapproach. And so that's what we do. We reapproach, and they've left the Ares on the gate, which is good. He can get a point on us, and that's fine, except that it doesn't keep us from jumping back. So we're gonna go ahead and head towards the gate and jump back, since they're way too far away for us to be tempted. See, if they're good, in my opinion, they put themselves close enough that we're tempted. They put the scimitar close enough that we're tempted to burn off the gate and try to catch it, or put a Drake close enough that we can try and burn it under the scimitar. That's the thing. If they just have the Drakes, I would understand them being kind of careful, but with the scimitar, they really should be able to rep through our damage pretty much. So they're being just a little too careful. Anyway, so I jump back. Kovorix stays on that side of the gate for a second. And then when I jump back, they have a new Ares on this side who's going to tackle us. Now that's a problem. Now we're pinned on this gate and can't go anywhere, because we can't deal with the Ares very well, and there's two of them. So that's an issue. To begin with, I go for a tackle on this guy. And then after that, I call Kovorix in and I say, we're going to have to deal with this guy. And we have a chance now because they're all aggro and off the gate. We have more time now to deal with this guy than we're going to have if we let them come back to the gate. So he's jumped in now, and he's got a heavy newt, so there's a good chance that he can newt this guy and we can get a tackle. But the Ares is pretty good, and he immediately rotates onto Kovorix. You'll see in just a second here, he drops his aggro on me right there, and then switches his tackle to Kovorix and sets his orbit at like 27k. He's outside of newt range. So, and the other thing that's interesting about this is it shows how both over the course of a long series of engagements, you lose, like, heat does a bunch of damage to your mods. I had to dock and rep at one point. I lost my drones earlier in the belt, so now I don't have warriors to put on the Ares. But here's the coolest thing that happens in the fight, and it's something you guys can do that also works against fast ships like this. I went out to where I was the same orbit distance as the Ares from Kovorix at the same plane that the Ares is orbiting. So I went out to, 25K from Kovorix, right in the Ares path, and you can see as he swoops in here, he doesn't notice, and he ends up saying in local afterwards that he had an overview bug, but I'm not sure that would have changed his behavior because it's more of a orientation thing than a distance thing. But you can see here he goes crashing right into me, and I'm just sitting waiting, and that's a lot better than hitting approach. You anticipate where ships are going and then manually pilot there, and you'll get tackles. So then I get this guy pinned down, and that's great, but now the gang from the previous system has made it back to the gate, and they're all jumping in. You can see now that GCC is worn off, but this is the same fleet. And so they all jump in, and Kovorix pulls his warriors off the Ares, which is terrifying for a second. I thought it wasn't going to die. This is the most intense moment. I was like, really wanted it to die for some reason, even though it didn't matter really at this point. So now, again, their whole fleet is aggro on this side. So now we have the jump as an exit, whereas if we wouldn't have tackled that Ares, the other one could have stayed on the other side of the gate, kept us jumping back and forth until they were able to kill us. But then I get tackled, I get webbed here. I thought they realized they could be more aggressive. They come in, I get webbed by 2 drakes and scrammed by 1, which I actually said on vent, I'm dead. But I think Kovorix, I don't know, he's nuding 1 and tackled 1 or something and freaked him out, and I did get a microwarp cycle, and it just barely allowed me to leave web range. And then once I leave web range, it's pretty easy skid back to the gate. You can see Kovorix burning out towards them right now, and I guess that's probably what forced him away from me. But again, I think that's too cautious on their part. Look how close I am to dying. If they just hold that web for a little bit longer, all they have to do is tank 1 Megathron, because I'm going to be dead, and I don't think that would be a problem. Plus, they'd have webs on the Megathron away from the gate, and they'd kill us both. But Kovorix just U-turns, head back to the gate, I jump out, and then in this system, there's nobody there to tackle us, so we both warp off the gate over here. I go to a planet first, and then it turns out there's a little 2-jump triangle to go back to low sec, so we do that, and we get away with both our ships and 1 Ares kill. So that's a successful roam. And I just hope that this gives you guys an idea about the kind of engagements we have on a regular basis. This isn't the sort of heroics that get into PvP videos, but it is the things we do on a daily basis, and I think it might be helpful to see how you can try to position a fight in your favor, and eventually maybe give up on it if it doesn't work out. But there you go. Again, thanks for all the feedback, and I hope you guys like this. I'll see you next time.